that should do it. And we're live on YouTube, just like that. How about that? Excuse me. All right, we don't need that open. All right, UNC. All right, nobody's sticking around. That's okay. You know why? Because I am going to sculpt whether there's anybody watching or not. Okay. Hopefully everybody is good today. Glad you all joined us. Today we're going to be picking up where we left off last week. We're going to be picking up where we left off last week with our with our Grinch. We started a Grinch last week. And today we're going to pick back up with it and finish it. We're going to put Max in the scene. And then we're going to create some other stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So here we go. First off, for those of you who are just joining us, I want to bring you up to speed here. Some of you have been showing up with great regularity to our streams and watching us create stuff, and I just wanted to bring you up to date here on some stuff that we've been making. So this is the front end of our holiday train, if you remember this. Sounds like I'm popping in at just the right time to see last week's continuing misadventure. Yes, you are. You are right on time. This is a test print. Pepper, get out of there. Get out of there. In your bed. You do not get the cat in the box. Let's go. Hold on a sec, folks. I can't be watching you and doing this at the same time, so you got to behave yourself. All right. Sorry, my dog was nosing through the litter box. I've got beagles, and they love to do it. I don't know why. But anyway, so this is the cow catcher. Which we created with a snap fit connector here on the back. Purpose of this is so we can snap fit it into the rest of the piece that's printed, greatly saving filament and time and all of that. So yeah, there's that, and printed out a couple of wheels. Those turned out real nice. Very happy with those. And train would not be a train unless it had a track to run on. So our track test prints are going well also. So there's the straight piece. Here's our curved piece. Turning out really, really nice. Curved piece, straight piece. So pretty thrilled with that as he throws it down. So yeah, that's what's going on, what's been going on. And now we're just gonna pick up where we left off and do some sculpting. So also, I don't know if you guys know this, any Nomad users out there, but here's a neat little trick for you. Organizing your files. I've got over I want to say 200, well over 200 sculpts. And trying to find something in that list of projects can be a bit challenging, shall we say. So, when you're saving your files, if you put a device-friendly name, so for example, it can't have any spaces, I don't think you can do underscores, etc., etc. I've got mine just like, for example, here, Holiday 2025. When you save your file, if you save it, I'm going to do a save as so you can see it happen. You'll see in the name it says holiday 2025 slash, and then I did an underscore on the name just so it appears at the top, base project 1. Now the name of the file, the name of your project can have spaces and dashes and all that stuff in it, numbers, etc. And that'll automatically create a new folder in the project's directory of Nomad. So that's very handy. I'm not going to save it because we don't need multiple copies of this. So that's how and I'm still in the process of organizing all of my stuff here. But that's how you can quickly and in an ongoing way organize all of your files. Isn't that nifty? So yeah. Before I would scroll through everything to try and find something, especially if it was like a repeating link or Boolean or something like that. Something, especially the utility stuff. Always a time waster. So now we're working on holiday stuff. We're going to go in here and grab our Grinch. And boom, there we go. So, all right, so where we left off last week, I knew you could collapse layers, but not the files. Yeah, I, you know what? I accidentally stumbled on that. I knew Chaos Costumes was trying to tell me, and of course, when you're doing these live streams and stuff, you're semi-distracted, so it's kind of hard to process what people are saying. But she was trying to tell me how to do it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to check into it later. I never did, of course. And then what I did was hold on, I just need to turn my music down here a little bit. I went out, I was backing up some projects, and I just went ahead and organized them in my files application on my iPad and made some folders. And some of the folders had spaces and whatnot in the name, so they didn't work. But the ones that didn't work and showed up in Nomad, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And so then I investigated a little bit further, and it's actually not that difficult to set up. So there we go. And here we are. You know what they say, wherever you go, there you are. So, all right. So again, Grinch, which is a basic variation of our Santa stuck in the chimney. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, the legs and the top half, I'm going to turn X-ray on so you can see it, of this chimney are a lid. So you can print these in separate pieces and then use it for a container to store things. And that's what I'll be using it for. All right. Hold on. I need to bring my mic down a little bit here. My mic actually fell off of the shelf I had it attached to the other day, so I'm still kind of adjusting things. All right. Much better. So there, again, like I said, and then of course we made a little indent here for one of our beloved penguins to stand, because again, my wife is a nut for penguins. And I'm actually going to throw some of these on the printer today, along with our Santa penguin, to start printing them. But let's go ahead and let's just hide our penguin for now. We don't need him showing. And there he is. Santa. Stuck Santa. Oh, did I do two versions? I must have just done a stuck Santa. That's without the footprints. And then that's a stuck Santa without the penguin footprints. Okay. All right. Of course, we won't print the penguin and this container at the same time. They print separately. The one that has the indent for the penguins. And I'm going to make this, whenever you download the file, there'll be 3 versions. There'll be one with the footsteps. I'm sorry, there'll be 2 versions. There'll be one with the footprints and then one with the indent for the penguin. So you can print whichever base you choose to do so. Morning, Wicked. Or afternoon. Yeah, no, it's afternoon, whatever time it is. Can't keep track. All right, back to our Grinch. Now, I'm going to need some reference pictures of Max, the Grinch's sidekick. So bear with me here a second while I pull up Grinch, and let's just do Max. Grinch and Max. There he is. And I like, you know, the original Max was very cute in his own way, but my favorite Max is the one from the Grinch redo, Not sure if you guys are familiar with that. Who did it? Was it DreamWorks? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? I think it was DreamWorks. Universal. Illumination. So, no, it was Illumination. My bad. No, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch. How do you pronounce his name anyway? I thought it was Cumberbatch. But it's probably Cumberbatch. I don't know. But yeah, I like that one the best because it's out of the three that I'm familiar with, the original Dr. Seuss, the Jim Carrey one, and I'm a huge fan of Jim Carrey, but I wasn't a real fan of the Grinch. Sorry. If you're a huge Jim Carrey Grinch fan, I apologize. But yeah. And then the one that Illumination did, like I said, I was far more impressed with their Max specific, and I like the Grinch too. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a little warmer, a little, and the story resolved a little bit better, I think. I mean, it resolved kind of the same way, but it just seemed, I don't know, it just seemed to come together a little more gracefully than the original. For sure, the original didn't. But then that was made how many years ago, right? How many decades ago? And then and then the Jim Carrey version, as most things Jim Carrey, just extremely over the top. Again, nothing wrong with that, and I appreciate it for what it is. But in this particular situation, I think we're going to do kind of our own version. Don't let Disney see. You know what? It's going to be different enough, I think, where we can get by. This is just a green furry guy sticking out of the chimney. It won't say Grinch anywhere, but thank you, Tina. I do appreciate you pointing that out, because here's the truth. I do occasionally sculpt IP stuff, and in most of those cases, and probably this case too, this will be a free download. So I don't make any money off of doing anything off of other people's IP. I do my best to just stick to my original stuff. And Tina, I don't know if you saw my earlier one here. This is an example of my original stuff. No Disney anywhere to be seen. Same concept, just less green and attitude. You know what? I'm actually going to save that, since this is the Santa with penguin. I'm going to go ahead and save that penguin so you can see it. So when I look through my files, I'll see which one has the penguin, and I have to go, which one is it? Anyway, so like we did with Santa, let's start with something simple, and let's switch out of paint mode into matte cap. I'm going to take this boot here. We're going to group it up. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, I want to join it. I'm going to make it one object. And I'll do the same thing here, because we're going to borrow these boots, or at least one of these boots, and we're going to use it to make our imprint down here in front of the chimney. Like the Grinch was standing in the snow. I'm sorry, the green guy was standing in the snow and then tripped and fell into the chimney, leaving his footprints, of course. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and clone this boot here. And we'll bring it down here in front. And yeah, there's so many artists that have absolutely no regard for other people's IP. And, you know, I've been in 3D printing for 12, 13 years. You can do whatever you want if it's for yourself. But when you start making money off of other people's art and other people's IP, there better be some sort of plan in place to license or get their permission or something like that. And not just because it's the rules, but you're setting yourself up for trouble. I've seen Etsy shops and artists get shut down with letters of cease and desist from Nintendo, Disney, Marvel. Fortunately, I've never gotten any of those, but it can happen. And if you're using somebody else's IP, you're just asking for trouble. So, all right, I'm going to revoxel or remesh this entire thing real quick so it just makes one object. And we're not going to need the fur, so I'm just going to cut the fur off the top. Like so. I just want this part of the boot. All right. And then I'm going to turn the grid off because we don't need that getting in our way visually. I am going to actually move this up a little bit. I'm going to grab, let me think for a minute. Yeah, I want to grab the bottom. Do I want to grab the bottom? Because I want the footprint, but then we have to expand it. Yeah, all right, so let's do that. Let's stretch it out first. I'm going to grab my mask tool, turn on tap, and just tap the surface I want to mask. Turn it off, and then we'll invert the mask. We're going to blur it a little bit. And then we're going to use our gizmo tool. Actually, we're going to reset our pivot point. I want it to be straight, so I'm going to just hit pivot here, auto align, and then turn the pivot back off. And now when I pull it down, it's just going to pull it straight down from that boot. Okay. Now, it's not really level, so let's fix that first. I'm going to clear the mask. I should have checked that first. I'm going to reset our pivot, and we're going to level that boot out just a little bit because I want that extrusion to come straight down. All right, let's reset our pivot one more time. Let's make sure our boot is straight vertically as well. There we go. Now we'll grab our mask tool. Thank you for the roses, Wicked. Go back into tap. And we're going to tap to select that area. And then we will tap the screen to flip the mask, blur it. And then grab our gizmo tool and again pull it down a little bit. Be sure to let me know if you guys have any questions. This isn't just to show up and watch me do what I do. This is meant to be something that people can learn, contribute to. Just a fair confession. Last time when we were doing the Santa, someone actually in the audience suggested the footprints in front of the chimney, and I'm like, you know what? That's a brilliant idea, and we ran with it. So, as much as you guys are watching the show, you can also be part of it. All right. I'm going to get rid of the mask now, and we're going to remesh this just a little bit. I want to go downwards, so then when I smooth it, it smooths it out a lot easier. And then I'm going to grab the manual smooth. I'm going to solo it, so we're just looking at the boot. Set my intensity over 100% so it smooths a lot more aggressively. All right. Now, we're going to inflate this slightly to make it a little bit bigger than the original. We'll remesh it again, smooth it again, a little manual smoothing. The main thing is the bottom portion of this. I want to get it into the shape and size that I want, because that's what we're going to use to cut out the indent in the snow. And whatever you have on your surface here as a boolean will reflect on the surface that it cuts out. So we want it nice and smooth, like that. Okay, let's see what we got. I'm going to turn off solo. Here again is our boot, and we're going to bring it down till it intersects our snow. And we're going to position it right about where his right foot would have been. I'm going to look at it from the side. We're going to turn X-ray on because I want to go down but not too far where I make that bottom a little too thin, because the bottom of this model is what will actually sit on the print bed when you're printing it. Okay? Okay. All right. That looks good. Now, we need 2 feet. And I could just duplicate this boot, but I'm going to go the route of a mirror repeater for 2 reasons. First of all, if the boot looks like it's a right-hand boot, if I mirror it, then I have a left-hand boot. Common, just Actually, you know what I just realized? This is his right, came off of his right foot. Yeah, okay. All right. So, and then also to demonstrate what a mirror or a repeater does. So if I hit mirror, it's going to take that boot and make a copy of it across the Z-axis. Real quick way to do arms, eyes, and everything that has symmetry on the body, or, you know, if you're not doing a character, anywhere else. Very handy. All right, now we have a problem with this boot over here. As you can see, it goes under the surface of the snow. All right, so that's not going to cut in like a footprint would, like if you stomp down through a snowdrift. So what I need to do is I need to extrude the top side of this left boot upwards. So let's do that. So I'm going to go back to my mirror, and I'm going to say keep instances because I want two boots. I'm sorry, I'm going to do that. I want to uninstance because I want each boot to be able to manipulate it individually. Okay, so we've got our boot. And I think we'll just, yeah, we're going to use our mask tool. Let's go ahead and solo this. And we'll just run a mask here across the top. I'm going to flip the mask, and then we'll use unmask so you can see it from both directions. So you can either paint a mask on, or you can mask the entire thing and then just reveal the area that you want to work with. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be lifting this portion straight up until it breaches the edges of that snow. So it looks a little more, again, like somebody stepped into the snow. So imagine this boot, what part of the boot would actually press the snow down as you step through it? Would be everything on the bottom, right? And that's what we've got. So we've unmasked this portion. That's the part that will be affected by our extrusion, and we're just going to pull that up like that. Okay? And while Nomad doesn't have an official extrusion, this is a down and dirty way to do it. And it works quite effectively. Clear our mask. We do the same thing we did before. We'll remesh it. Give it a little smoothing. And I think that should be sufficient. Let's go ahead and smooth these edges because some of that might show up in our snow. Steph, welcome. I saw your comment on my video, or your like. I don't know if it was a comment or a like. I can't remember. Can't keep track. Everything's just moving so fast. But good to see you. Thanks for showing up. And thank you for interacting with our content. And for those of you that are here and haven't punched the like button yet, or, you know, did the tapping thing, by all means, if you're getting something out of this, if it's enjoyable, if it's educational, if it's just taking the edge off of a Wednesday morning for you, tap that heart button and screen. And like they say, tapping is clapping. That lets me know that you're enjoying it and that I'm doing it right. And if you don't, then I know I did something wrong. And we'll adjust for next time. Also, like, follow, subscribe, all the stuff, depending on where you're at. We're streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Discord, on our own private Discord, which if you want to get access to that, you're welcome to join us. All right, I think that's all of the self-plugging I need to do. Okay, so let's turn solo off. So we've got our left boot and our right boot. All right, I'm going to go down here and grab both of these boots. We got 1 and 2. And we'll just join them into one Boolean. We don't need them to be grouped, so let's pull it out of the group and get rid of the group. All right. So to make a Boolean happen, we just need to hide it and then select the item that we want to pull the Boolean or cut the Boolean out of. What's up? What's the app? Oh, Nomad Sculpt, running on an iPad Pro. It's also available for Android and now coming to desktops, Mac and PC near you. All right, we've got our Boolean hidden. You can kind of see it, but it's hidden. Hidden and selected. And then the roof snow is selected because that's what we're going to cut out. And just like that, we have a couple of footprints. Right where the green fuzzy guy took a step and then fell forward in the chimney. All right, we smoothed that out a little, or we remesh it a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and manually take a walk in here now and do some smoothing on the edge of this snowdrift. Can you save STL files? You sure can. You can export to many file formats. Nomad, which is the native format, you can export to STLs. OBJ, if you want it to retain the colors that you paint it with for multicolor printing, which gives you stuff like this. This is off our H2D. We're currently printing out our holiday train. This is a 5-color print. There's no red on here, but red is the other color that prints with this. And that was all painted up in Nomad Sculpt and then exported as an OBJ. All right, over here now, we're going to smooth out this boot. Again, when you step in snow, it's not going to be like really crispy and rigid on the edges. So we're just de-crisping it a little bit. Firefly, good questions though. Thank you for asking. Give us a follow, subscribe, like, send us hundreds and hundreds of taps. I was going to say dollars, but... And our models are all available if you're interested in getting them. I have links on my bio. Let's see, TikTok. Let me go to my profile right there. On our profile, that link right there at the top leads to a page with all of our links. So we have some free ones you can download, and if you really like them, and especially if you want to sell them. We only do a commercial tier right now. You can buy the files individually if you want to print them for yourself or family or whatever. But if you want to sell them commercially, then there is a commercial tier available. All right. Now, our snow, our object that we booleaned, always takes the surface of the boolean itself. So what we need to do is we're going to go ahead and sample. I'm going to grab my paint tool, and we're going to sample that color. And for some reason, it's not sampling. That's all right. We'll grab our eyedropper, sample, and then paint. And there you go. We're back to white snow. Okay. So there is our, probably could use a little more smoothing inside here. We crank that up a little bit. And open up the radius of our tool. Get a little bit more dramatic with our smoothing. Okay, so we have successfully put footprints where Mr. Green Guy would have stepped just before he took his plunge into the chimney. All right, so if you're joining us in progress, we are working on a version of the green guy around the holidays. Some call him the Grinch. I call him the green fuzzy guy, who's fallen into the chimney. And like we did with our stuck Santa, at the same position, we're going to create a little indent over here and create his faithful sidekick, Mr. Max, place for him to sit. Now, before we do that, I'm going to save this because we're going to call this guy done. And then we're going to save a new version, and this will be Stuck Grinch. Oh, not sure what happened there. Save it as, and that will be, why is it deleting? I think I need to restart Nomad. I think that might be the problem. Tell you what, let's do that. Let's go ahead and give Nomad an opportunity to help itself here. Because when I did my holding down the I key on my keyboard for sampling, it didn't work last time. So that tells me something's off with Nomad. Yeah, it does. I mean, you know, again, at the end of the day, we're doing some pretty heavy lifting. I mean, I don't spare any polygons when I model. I know a lot of people are all about, you know, memory management and polygon control, you know, keeping your poly count down. I don't care about that. You know what my answer to that is? Again, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying I don't do that. And there's quick ways to drop your poly, and then at the end of the day, when everything is done and it's ready to send to print, or in my case, upload for my collection, then I'll decimate the file. I'll create a decimated version, and that's usually what the red background means, is that file has been decimated. Okay. So I don't get it mixed up if I need to do a redo or a modification or whatever. So, but again, this is this year's edition of the I forget what chip is in it. New iPad Pro, and I just got a MacBook Pro that I'll be putting Nomad. Actually, I've already put Nomad on there. I just need to get a touch display. And actually, in the near future, I'll probably be doing streaming from a touch display, a Wacom Cintiq. I'm selling some equipment and making room in the budget to procure that. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, yeah. At the end of the day, we're doing some pretty high-level polygon manipulation here. So if the app every once in a while needs to take a breath, I think it's only fair. I've turned wireframe on and zoomed in. You can get an idea what we're looking at here. This is not. These are not game. These are not game level poly count models. And again, you can decimate this down when you're done, which I do, but not while I'm working on it. While I'm working on it, we go with as high poly count as I want. And Nomad pretty much keeps up most of the time, so I have no complaints. Every once in a while, it kind of vomits on itself, but like I said, I think it's acceptable, and it doesn't do it all the time. Maybe a couple times a day. So so actually, it hasn't crashed yet. I just voluntarily restarted it, so you haven't even seen one. One instance of that. All right, I was initially going to sculpt Max in here, but it doesn't make sense if I do that, simply because there's no reason to. Speaking of poly count and overtaxing the hardware, so let's go ahead and save this as. I'm going to call it Grinch, and I'll just put -max. When we come back to this and put max in here, this is the file that we'll come back and modify. In the meantime, let's go ahead and start with a new project. All right, so Max is a quadruped dog, to be specific. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this sphere up into position. This is our cut line. So I think we'll actually have Max print sitting up. Okay. So we want to keep that in mind. Put that right about there. This is going to be his body. I'm going to validate this so we can start sculpting it right out of the gate. I'm going to narrow it down a little bit because Max is a little skinny. Again, I'm working from a reference photo here on the Google machine. I'm going to grab my move tool because I want to stretch his upper body up a little bit. Okay. Now Max is kind of a skinny pup. So while I want to respect the character of Max as much as possible, I also have to take into account what it's going to take to print him. So we will do our best to adhere to the normal look that you would expect from Max, at the same time taking into account what it's actually going to take to print this guy. All right, his backside comes down here. So basically we're just taking a sphere and we're tweaking it into the basic shape that we want. I think actually his upper body, let me move our pivot point down here. So when we scale it, it scales it down to the print bed. Go back to our move tool. He's got a little bit of a hump in his back because he kind of sits hunched over a little bit. Not too much, just ever so slightly. It's just a sign of his submission to his master. He's a very obedient, very good dog. Anybody that's ever seen Max knows this is true. All right, so we're going to call this his body. Name your parts. Name your parts. That way you will never wonder which part it is that you're working with, because you'll have named them in your object palette, and everybody will be happy. Mostly you. All right, there's the head. I'm going to clone this. I'm going to pull his nose out here. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Stretch it out a little bit. Max's head is always kind of tilted up. So let's just give it a little bit of a tilt here right out of the gate. Are there other CAD programs you'd ever do video streams like this with? Maybe Fusion. I might do a little work in Fusion. I try to steer clear of Blender as much as possible. I'm just not a fan. I used to, years ago, I got my start in 3D about 35 plus years ago, let's just say that. Used Lightwave by NewTek and some other programs. And I was always just a little disappointed that I couldn't do better organic modeling in Lightwave. And, you know, I haven't done serious 3D modeling for probably, I don't know how many years, but yeah, I like how quick and fluid Nomad is. I'm a visual artist, so I pull things, anything that I can sculpt with, like clay, on in a virtual environment like this, without all the mess, is a big win for me. Yeah, that was the thing about Blender. It's very capable, and I've seen people that put it through its paces, and it's very, very impressive what they do with it. But yeah, I just again, and I understand how to use it, but just getting familiar with the interface, and then it's like the things that you want to do it are buried, and that's kind of my issue with ZBrush as well. ZBrush, very powerful, very amazing application for what it can accomplish, but it's a very high learning curve, and mostly because things are so buried within the menus, to accomplish things. That's one of the things that I like about Nomad is a lot of what you want to do is very close to the surface, and to me that's imperative, especially if a person is new to the world of 3D modeling. So, all right, I'm going to, let's, I'm going to validate these spheres because I need to start sculpting them. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and grab my move tool. I'm going to lock this view down here. Max's head is kind of tall and skinny, so I'm going to bring his head up a little bit here. He's going to need a forehead too. That's good for the bottom. I'm going to bring his cheeks in a little bit. I'm going to bring the back out a little bit. It'd help if I had a side view of Max. I only have a 3/4 view, so I'm kind of making some of this up. All right, looks like his nose. Let's pull the radius of our brush up a little bit. I'll put this over here on this screen. A little bit of an indent there. His nose comes up. And if you haven't seen the Illumination Studios version of The Grinch, it's well worth your time. I watch it at least a half a dozen times a year. Yep, I sure do. All right, let's see. We've got the head. We got a little bit of forehead here. I'm going to make his feet come out here, and then his haunches will be back here. And again, he's going to be a little thicker than Max usually is depicted. But we have to, again, I want a quality 3D print, so somebody can print this guy separately and sit him on the chimney with the Grinch or next to it, whatever. All right, let's do the ears next. I think that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to pull an ear down here. He's kind of got longish ears, actually come down to about the top of his the midpoint of his legs. And I'm going to mirror it because we need 2 ears. And by the way, we were speaking earlier about repeaters. When you hit mirror, that's what it does. Right now, we've just got 1 tube that we're using the mirror or using for the ear. And if I hit mirror, it automatically puts a repeater in there, and now we have an ear on either side. All right, let's put a little curve to it, nail it to his head, bring it up a little. How do you get your sculpt so smooth? Aside from the smooth tool and prevent high vertices. So how do you get your sculpt so smooth? First of all, it has to do with your polygon count. Everything comes down smooth. See, sculpting in 3D on an application is an illusion. If I hit the W key, you can see my wireframe. Okay. Now, this doesn't have enough polygons in it. All right. You see how few polygons there are there? If I were to validate this, and you know what I'll actually do? I'll go ahead and demonstrate it. We can always undo. So if I hit validate now, that's actually not too bad. But let me undo the validation. I'm going to go down and drop the topology down a little bit. So if I validate it here, and the first time I go to do something like that, you're going to see all of those polygons. All right. Now that's not terrible, but it can be. So what you want to do is you want to increase your polygon count. Take it up a little ways. And now when I validate it and I go back to remesh and work with the wireframe, it's going to look much better. Okay. And if you find, you have an object that is, looking pretty rough, let me go ahead. Let's see. That didn't really work. I can't get anything to look bad now. Trying to think, what can I make here? Let's make another tube. Let's do that. All right, and I'm going to increase it. I'm going to turn mirror off. Oh, actually, it's in a mirror in a mirror. You gotta watch for that. Let's see. I'm going to unmirror. No, there we go. I just want one. So again, I'm just going to use decimate till it's low poly. No, decimation takes you in the opposite direction. You can decimate, but decimate's usually the last thing that I do when it comes to doing any kind of cleanup. And polygon reduction to make sure the file is as small as I can make it while not dropping any quality for the person on the other end that will be downloading this and printing it. Okay. But, again, topology, the amount of polygons in your object has everything to do with how smooth it is. Because a circle, in this case, and in any application, and that is both, especially vector, but it does apply to bitmap images as well. There is no such thing as a perfect circle in a computer application. It is described as segments. That's the reason vector art, if you zoom in sometimes, it can start, especially in the old days. Now they've gotten much better with vector art in describing the circle, but it still points in segments on a line, a series of short lines connected together. So, again, if you want to make things smooth, and if I take this all the way down, you can see it start getting rough by decreasing the number of polygons. Now, this will be a very efficient model, and that's the reason a lot of game models look rough, is because they have to process quickly within the gaming environment, within the program, the gaming engine like Unreal or something like that. But we're not making game models. We're making art. And there you go. Nice and smooth. Hopefully that helps. And there's different tools within here to help you. So let's say, for example, let me go back and undo that. I'm going to go ahead and validate this, make it an object. What Cotton was talking about is decimation. So if I come over here and I decimate this model, I can knock the polygon count down but it starts getting rough on the edge again. Now this will print very quickly. We're going to lose some quality along the edge, maybe not too bad. But here's the cool thing about Nomad Sculpt. If you suddenly decide, you know what, I want to work with this again, and right now it's decimated, it's not irreversible. All I have to do is come back up here to my remesh, and I say, remesh this thing up to about, let's say 200. Got it set to 183. Let's take it up to 250. Boom. Now we have a grid of polygons again. And I'll just hit the smooth here a little bit. That'll help straighten them out too. And there you go. We're right back to a nice clean cylinder. Or if we grab our sculpt tool, we can do all kinds of funky things to it. And you can see how I have a high enough polygon count to support whatever I do to this thing. Grab my inflate tool. Take my inflate tool, turn it into a deflate tool, push in the geometry. And again, the polygon will support it, or the polygon count will support it, and it'll stay nice and smooth. All right, and if you want to check how smooth it is, turn on your paint. Let's go ahead and solo this, and give it a metallic texture. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to say, doesn't even matter what color it is, just turn it into a metal, and turn that roughness down. A brighter color usually helps, and then paint it. That's a smooth model, no doubt. Okay, all right. Back to Max. All right, as you all know, anybody that's worked with me before or observed me, you know that our tube starts with a default profile of a circle. We're going to go into profiles, and it converts it to a square. I'm not sure why, but it does what it does. That's fine. And we're going to turn it back into a circle by hitting all the corners and converting them to rounded corners rather than points. And then we're just going to jump out here real quick, and we're going to elongate this a little bit. Oh, Jeremy, what's up? Hold on. I am live streaming. Start event. That's weird. I've never been asked by Discord to start the event before. Stick around. We'll chat a little bit when I get done with the live stream. Got some stuff to show you, some stuff to tell you. A little catching up to do. All right, so basically what we're doing is we're creating a profile. If you were to look down a cross-section of Max's ear, this is the profile that you would see, the shape. I'm going to go ahead and move this to the center. All right, now of course Max's ear is turned the wrong way. No surprise there. Fortunately, I can just turn on twist, and we'll just twist it the right way. And we'll pull it into his head again to make sure that it marries to his head, the place where it should be. And remember, sculpts. Oh, how'd that come back? The tube tool works on a spline path. The reason I tell you that is because you want this ear to come out. Maybe you want it to go up a little bit where it attaches to his head. All right, that's the way we accomplish that. Just, you know, you want him to have an attitude. Just depends on where you pull these points on this path to get it to lay the way you want. Lay and look the way you want. I want it to attach to his head because that'll make it print a lot more easily. Okay, and I want these ears to hang forward a little bit. I want them to sweep back because they don't. And now I'm going to turn on my radius tool, which allows me to adjust the size of the profile everywhere that you see this little orange handle. I can do starting and ending profile. I can, by default, it has one here that you can adjust the size overall, or in this case, I want to adjust it to be wider here, get narrower here before it goes into his head. And then I also want one here at the end where it gets really narrow and makes the bottom of his ear. So we're going to slim this down as it comes up to his head. Maybe a little wider at the top. There you go. And we'll pull this up a little bit too to round the bottom of that ear. All right, and now we have some happy little ears. I gotta throw that in every once in a while. I've been told a few times that I sound like Bob Ross when I'm doing this stuff. I don't hear it, but it's not a bad thing. I like Bob Ross, so. All right, there we go. We got the ears, the right shape, the right length. Let's do some legs. Grab that tube tool, go back to path, lock it down. Legs will come from here and end probably right about there. Steph was waiting for a happy little something. Well, good. Glad I could. All right, now, I'm not sure why it does this, but it does. It comes out with the default from your last tubed object, and I wonder, I'm going to undo that. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that we're creating it next to the other tube. So let's grab the tube tool again. Now that we're outside of the mirror, that's containing the other tube. Yep, that's why. Okay, I learned something new today. I'm going to mirror it because we need two front legs. And we're going to pull it into his body. I'm going to turn on X-ray because I want to see where it is in relationship to his ears. All right, that's good. Turn X-ray off because I want to see how it interfaces with the body as well. And we'll put some feet on him here in a minute. Right now, we're just going to work on the legs, the shape. We can leave this as a radius. We don't need to get creative with the profile as much. So I'm going to turn on starting and ending radius. So I'll start up here. And remember, like I said before, I know Max is ordinarily a very skinny pup, but we need to 3D print him. So our Max is going to have a little more meat on his bones. But we'll keep him skinny in presentation like this. I think that'll help sell the illusion that he's the same skinny Max he's always been. He has not been working out. I'm going to go back into X-ray mode because I want to see where this leg terminates right at that ear. Okay, I like that. Let's up the topology of our tube. Let's turn off X-ray. I wish I could do this. I can only print files. Johnny, you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people that think they can't do this can actually do this. I would encourage you to pick this application up. I am not selling anything. I'd get no commission for this. TikTok, if you're paying attention. And just play with it. That's all I've done. Now, I have been sculpting or 3D modeling for a number of years, but this is by far and away, and I'm an expert at 3D modeling in general. A professional, I should say. I'm not an expert, but I like to think I know a few things. And this is one of the easiest applications I've ever seen when it comes to 3D modeling. Nomad Sculpt. It should be in the title of the live. No links or anything like that. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to put a link on my, on my profile. If you look at my profile, it's not in there now, but I'm going to put a link in here for people to direct them where to get Nomad Sculpt, because I get this question a lot. So, by the way, my links is where you can find all my Patreon, my Minifactory, my other socials. If you want to watch us on Twitch, I don't have a Twitch link in here, do I? I thought I did. All right, well, I've got some work to do on my link. Yeah, and Steph is exactly right. Hello, Vision 3D Creations. Steph is exactly right. Start on something simple and work up from there. Believe me. Let me real quick. Let me save this guy. I'm going to save him as Max. Max Factor. This is. Let me show you one of my first sculpts. Are you ready? Now, no laughing. All right, I'm taking a risk here showing you this stuff. And actually, I deleted some of my original sculpts. Wait, is it in here? Okay, so this is actually one of my first sculpts. Okay. I had a niece, actually my great niece. Holy cow, I actually said I have a great niece. She had a stuffed animal. And she's like, the kids call me Uncle Iron Man. There's a story behind that. We'll get into that some other time. All right, we'll get into it now. I've cosplayed and won many contests as Iron Man over the past dozen or so years. So anyway, she comes to me, Uncle Iron Man. Hold on. Twitter wants to make sure I'm still here. Sorry. Thank goodness I saw it, otherwise I would have suddenly been gone. Anyway, she just brought me this stuffed animal. It was obviously a little husky with a red ribbon in its hair. And she's like, Uncle Iron Man, can you make this for me? And I'm like, sure. I hadn't done much with Nomad Sculpt, and this was about a year ago. So I'd crack it open and start playing around and made her a little husky. And then I'm like, well, if I can do that, let me try and make one of, and we were traveling, we were in Texas, had our beagles with us. This is Pepper, one of my beagles, and I'm like, okay, that one went a little better. And then my wife is a huge penguin nut. And by the way, this was my first flexi I ever made. I did, and I will keep this. This was just testing the flexi concept to see if I could figure out how to do it. And there it is. I tested some other things, obviously using the stamp tool. But this is my first flexi. This is my first sculpt. So, on Nomad. Now, I understand 3D modeling in a general sense. But honestly, again, I think anybody could do this. Now, I may be a little bit naive, and my wife has told me that before. So it wasn't long after I did the 2 puppies and started working on flexis, I had someone say, hey, could you do us a zombie basketball player wearing bunny slippers? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's give it a try. Now this, I didn't use hardly any of the techniques that I use now to create this. Okay. I went about this the hard way. Oh my gosh. I could so redo this now, and it would be miles and miles away and better than what that was. So this is my practice stuff. This is when I first started playing around with the extract tool, pulling shapes and geometry out of... Sure, yes, Johnny, show up here. I try to get on here at least once a week, and do this stuff. It's for you guys. It's obviously I'm trying to promote what I do, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, show up here if you got questions. By the way, on my going back again to my profile, if you see right here, this Linktree /LD Foundries. If you click on this, right here, I have a free Discord server. 3rd link down. You just punch that. It works now. It didn't work last week. I'll just show you. And there you go. You're right in my server. All right, now I'm not going to stay in there because I'm on TikTok on another machine. But the reason I show you that is because there's a place where you can show us what you're doing. You can ask questions, etc., etc. Yes, Copper brings up a good point. Chaos does a lot of really cool stuff. And I am starting to put together stuff on YouTube, Twitch, and elsewhere as well, walking you through the process. So now, one other thing I want to show you before we get back to what we're doing here with Max. Let me tell you a quick story. My wife is a penguin nut. She's a fanatic for penguins. She loves penguins. I think they're okay, but she loves them. And last Christmas, I downloaded somebody else's model and printed out a bunch of penguins for her and a little igloo that she could put them in, and she absolutely loved it. As I looked at the penguin, no offense to the original artist, I thought, you know what? I can do a better job. Again, no offense to the original, So I did. I set out to create a better penguin. Now, that was my first penguin, okay? I'm not even kidding. About the same time I did that link that articulation test. And then I shortly graduated to this. And I'm like, okay, we are making tracks. So much wrong with this file, it isn't even funny. So gradually over the past 6 months, I've gotten to the point now where I can make these penguins. So this is the updated penguin. This is my perfected penguin. Okay. Flippers move, the body articulates, so forth, and so on. And now I do all different kinds of penguins. Like, here is our holiday penguin. This is our elf penguin. And then we have our Santa penguin. I did a cause penguin for breast cancer. My wife is a breast cancer survivor. And there they are, along with his other cause buddies. Okay. How do you make it articulate? That is a whole process. And when I'm doing articulated stuff, I'll walk you through it. But it's basically a series of links and clearances that allow the links to articulate freely. And most importantly, print in place. So they come off the printer just like this, ready to play with. Oop. So there's a little bit of engineering that goes into it. But again, that's not super difficult. It's something that you'll pick up by observing, watching me do it here. That's our ghost version. And then we start moving on to other characters. Here is, most recently, one of our Halloween dragons with articulated wings and tail and body parts. We did a bat kitty. Hold on a second. This was very popular with the masses. Sorry, it's kind of dim here in the studio. Let me turn the lights up just a smidge. That'll help. That'll help you see things. Okay, there's our bat kitty. I don't have any more of these in color because they've been pretty popular. This is a functional test of our scarecrow, which you'll see that video featured. I just uploaded the process or the time-lapse video of creating this guy. And then that's part of our harvest collection. This is also part of our harvest collection. We just launched him about a month ago. Our articulating turkey with feathers that flop around and do what articulated things do. And the body's articulated as well, the legs. What else? And then more complicated stuff. Who was it that asked about the hardest thing? Johnny. So this is part of one of the most involved models that I've made. This is a print of the cow catcher on our Holiday Express. Okay. And we made it so it snaps. I did a little engineering, created a snap fit device. And I can show you the file for that. We go into our holiday collection. I currently have the rest of the engine printing on the printer right now. There are tracks, there are other cars, but this is the engine. Here's the one of the wheels. That's the front wheel for it. That's the back wheel. So, yeah, this was quite a. There's a lot of object lessons in here for sculpting. A little bit of engineering. We've got Janny couplers on the back that actually function, like the real ones. Thank you. This will be available on our model repository as well. And then, of course, no train would be complete if you didn't have the tracks and if they didn't interlock with each other. So we got a straight track, a curved track, and they actually clip together nicely. So this is going to be a display. That's going to be a display piece for people that want to print it out and sell it and keep it for themselves. Is there a feature on the program that lets you articulate it by itself? No, there is not. You have to build everything. And that's why you're here, right? You want to watch it happen so you can apply it later. All right, and there's the engine without the wheels and the cow catcher on the front. This is how it prints. So I modularized this in such a way where it will greatly cut down on the amount of filament and time required to print it. But this goes beyond just your average sculpt. This takes a little bit of thinking, and there's sculpting involved, but there's definitely some engineering that went into this. Engineering, get it? It's a train. I just realized that. Here's the caps that hold the wheels on. This is an example. I went through 3 or 4 different types of snap cap, and this is the one that I landed on, and it works extremely well. But this looks like something you'd buy at a hardware store, or it would be used in an automotive design for something. All right, let's see. Anything else? Any other questions? I can show you a couple of the other cars too. Here's the coal tender that goes with the train. That'll go on the printer next. All right. Again, Janny couplers front and back. It's actually got coal. That coal is real. No, I'm kidding. I use textures and all different kind of things. Yeah, that's what they remind me of too. Body panel or trim panel snaps. Yeah. And my dad owned a junkyard, so I'm very familiar. Torn a lot of cars apart. There's a box car. You can put all kinds of wiggle buds in the car if you want. Push them around the track. And then last but not least, I'm very proud of this caboose. Whoop. All right, there you go. You saw it. I crashed Nomad. Like I said, it doesn't happen a lot. Once in a while. But I do push it hard. All right, and here is our caboose. Every train has to have a caboose. Now, the cool thing about this caboose is the roof, the snow, everything from this red roof here up lifts off. Okay, if I select it, you'll see when I slip into X-ray mode, it's got a lip inside there that allows you to, to remove the roof and play with it. The doors actually swing inward. I build a hinge to allow them to print in place and then actually function. So again, if kids are playing with this or whatever, it will let them do so. I love it. Did you record making this, or was it done off camera? I recorded various steps. I did not do a straight through, here's how you create a train. And I was thinking about that. I'm starting to upload. You'll check our YouTube, Twitch channels. I'm starting to do a lot more structured, and even today's upload. If you actually go, oh, hold on. Why is that open? I need TikTok. If you go to my profile, this video here that I just dropped this morning. I'm not going to play it all the way through, but it actually goes through the whole time lapse of the Scarecrow coming together. So if you get a chance, check that out. As far as the train itself goes, oh, that's a preview. That's stuff that's coming. You don't get to see that yet. Come on. But if I think something's beneficial, which I really think this is, because there's a lot of disciplines that went into creating this train, I think it would probably be beneficial for me to create a series and walk people through, creating another train, which I could do this with my eyes closed now. That's the cool thing about doing this stuff, is once you do it once, you can do it again. And in fact, I'd probably even make a better version. Actually, the truth is, I am planning little. I'm actually planning to do different versions of this train for seasons and events and things like that. Like, for example, I've already got a Valentine's Day train in process, and it's basically going to be the same train. I'm just going to do different things on it. But one of the plans that I have for this is to motorize it. So, in other words, when you put this train on the track and set it up for whatever holiday it is. Then just flip a switch, and you'll be able to it'll be able to drive itself around the track. So now that'll be even more engineering, which is okay. That's why we're here. But yeah, so that is in the plans. How soon will I get to it is another question entirely. All right, let's get back to working on Max. What time is it, actually? I got to pay attention to the time. Hold on a second. It is 1:30. Let me think for a minute. One of the things that I had to do this afternoon actually fell through, so I could probably go to about 3:30 or 4 at the latest. Actually, sorry, I don't mean to go through my schedule here while we're doing a live stream. I should probably cut this off at 3, but let's see where we're at 3. All right, so here we go again. We're working on Max. We got the legs. I need that grid back on. We're going to turn that on. Get rid of that window. Hello. All right. Uh-oh. Nomad is locking up on me. I've been jumping around too fast. Let's restart it. Okay. Grid on. Yes. There we go. Okay. All right. So there is our front leg. We got our ears, our head. And again, we're working with the Max from Illumination Studios when they did the updated Grinch. I've noticed here that I want my lower jaw to come out here a little bit because we need to put a smile on Max's face, and his nose kind of curves up and his snout curves down. And we are going to put an actual nose on him as well. I just want to get the proportions correct. So that's what we're doing. We started with basic primitives, and then we worked from there. And I think actually his jaw might come down a little bit here. Okay. Now, as I said before, his legs are kind of skinny. I want to respect that as much as possible, but still make him a successful print. So we're going to thicken Max up a little bit in various places. I'm going to go ahead and grab my tube tool because I want to do a back leg back here. We're going to do it a little differently. Normally I create a haunch, and we might do that, but I want to try something with the tube tool that I haven't done. So I'm going to put a point here and here. This is where the leg starts. This is where it ends. Then I'm going to do this. Actually, I want it to end about here. All right. That's a good place to start. I want to make sure that it's not in another... let's see. Where is the tube? This hasn't been created yet. Oh, that's because it was... Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry. Thinking out loud again. All right. Now, I'm going to... We need 2 of them, so we're going to mirror it. So we've got one on each side. I'm going to fatten this up a little bit. Not a lot. And I'm going to turn X-ray on, and then the radius points in between so I can modify this. I can modify this shape as we go. I want it fatter in the back and kind of narrow in the front. Now you notice we got some pinching here. We're going to fix that. We're going to go into profile. Now you see this is what happens. Our profile is a default square. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. So we just change it back into a circle. And I'm going to move this profile on the path. You see here how it kind of folds in on itself because I've moved it on the path to the inside of the path. So I'm going to move it to the outside. Now we can put that bend there without a lot of pinching, which is great because we're going to put some more bends in here. All right, we're starting to get kind of rough on the curve. That's a sign we need to up our topology. Okay, here we go. Now, if I want to give him a knee, which I do, that's something we would do with sculpting after the fact. Right now, we're just looking to get the basic shape down. Yeah, any picture that you've seen of Max as a puppy, he's got this, he's got this leg that kind of just folds back in on itself, and then the toes come out. So like I said, I'm trying to respect the original as much as I can, but yet keep it an easily printable item. All right, I'm going to bring in the bottom of his leg in here like this. Okay. And make his legs kind of bow out a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to grab my gizmo and just kind of rotate this a little bit so it sits outside of his body. And then we'll slip back into point edit mode. Oh, you're doing dishes. Excellent. Yeah, I need to do some dishes too. And I'm glad we can make it more enjoyable because there's nothing like house chores. Nothing at all. I love house chores. Can you tell? It's in my voice. All right, I'm going to pull this leg down. We're going to trim the bottom of it off, so don't worry about where the bottom of it resolves right now. That blue line is our trim line. Like I said, I'm not sure that I'll like this leg, but let's see how it looks with the body. Like I said, Max has got kind of a weird back leg. And again, I know it's the animation style that he was drawn in. So I'm not going to complain about it. I definitely would not have done it that way, but, you know, Illumination did not consult me on the shape of Max's legs. So we are left to work with what they gave us. Alright, I think we're in the right spot. The question is, it's laying nicely along his backside. Yeah, this is the reason I don't like this leg. If I were doing the leg, I would do an oblong haunch here, and then the lower leg coming off of it. So that may still be the direction that we go. Because I think that'll print. I think that'll print much easier too. I'm getting rid of that. We're moving on to my version of the leg. This is the good thing, see, about doing art, is you're the artist. Make it look the way you want. Again, no disrespect to the original. We're going to mirror that. But we don't necessarily like the way the original looks, so we're going to do our own version. Alright, so I'm going to lean that forward a little bit. We're going to compress this, make it a little more haunch-like. And then we'll angle it inward. And actually a little outward. Alright. So that's about where I would... It also saves on IP infringement, exactly. Now I'll go ahead and do a tube off of the bottom part of this leg here. Make sure, okay, we got our sphere and our mirror. I'm going to take this mirror out of here because I don't want a mirror of a mirror. That always has a tendency to... And you know what we're going to do? We're going to pin this open and name some parts real quick. So this will be our snout. And I think that's the head. It is. We'll name it appropriately. Okay, this will be the ear. This will be the rear haunch. And this will be the rear leg. And this will be the foreleg. There we go. All right. We've got a mirror down here we're not using. Let's get rid of that. Now, everything actually, where's the body? There's the body. So the body goes down here. And the forelegs go in the body. The rear haunch goes into the body. The snout and ear stay attached to the head. So now, see, quickly, we have good organization of our parts here, and we can quickly get, by looking here, to what we want. Foreleg, I'll actually put that above the rear leg. And there's our rear leg. We're going to mirror it. And actually, you know what? Yeah, we're going to keep it as its own mirror. All right, there we go. Let's move this leg outward to line up with our rear haunch. We are going to increase the diameter of it and then position it where we want. Actually, I think I'll bring it up a little bit like that. Turn on starting and ending radius. Turn on X-ray so we can see how far in we want to take it. Turn off X-ray so we can see how it lines up with everything else. Okay. I don't want any gaps between the print plate, so I'm actually going to bring this down just a little bit. Thank you for the likes, folks. Again, tapping is clapping. If you enjoy what you're seeing, if it's inspirational, if it's helpful, or if it's just downright entertaining, let us know. And that's how you let us know. All right, now we need his tail. And again, ordinarily, Max's tail comes to a little bit of a curl. I think we can pull that off, but we have to make sure that there's not a lot of overhangs in order for the tail to print with as few supports as possible. So, and I don't need two tails, so I'm just going to select the body, and we will draw our tail out here. I'm going to have it resolve about here, and we'll put that kind of a curve in it right there. Might need a little support there when it prints. Not a big deal. All right. Now I'm going to turn snap on because I want to center this on the center line where the rest of our puppy is. Okay. Looks good. And same thing. I'm going to turn on our radius so we can mess around with the diameters individually. Oh, turn snap off. There we go. Now Max's tail is a little flat, so I'm going to slip back into profile mode here, which as before, it will give us the square default, but we'll just switch that back to the shape that we want. And we're going to just flatten the tail out a little bit. Whoop. Like so. But I want this profile here to kind of bush out a little bit. So I think what we'll do here is we'll turn on multiple profiles. I'll copy it and paste it to all so it's the same profile throughout. And then we're going to come to this profile here. And we're going to just bush it out a little bit. Make it a little thicker. See if we like that. And I do. I think we'll go a little wider on that portion. That's a little bulbous now. Let's go ahead and knock this down a smidge. All right, I'm going to pull this down and pull this in. Actually, you know what? I don't want it that big. Let's pull this a little closer to his body. It can still have the same curve. I just don't want a lot of geometry out there hanging in the wind, so to speak. All right, let's look and see what we got. Yeah, that's a little more print friendly, I think. It's still going to be a little thin toward the bottom, so let's pull that up a little bit. I'll fatten it up a little bit. Again, I hate to take all these liberties with Max's tail, but it does have to print successfully, otherwise what's the point? No, it's too much. Alright, so it's pretty thick here. I think we should be okay. Make it a little shorter. Alright. You know what? if it doesn't print successfully, we can always come back and change it. All right, so there's our tail, we got our body, we got our legs. Let's put some paws on these front feet here. Let's see, 4 legs. We're just going to add a sphere in there. And because we put it in a mirror, it's automatically already mirrored. We'll scale it down. Put it where the paws should go on the front of his feet. Now the cool thing about paws, they're a little elongated. Let's go ahead and validate this so we can modify the geometry. And I'm going to grab the trim tool. Anybody that's watched me create my articulated wiggle buds knows that we are experts at doing paws. Grab our trim tool, and we're going to trim this off right even with our print line. Oops, that needs to be up. And now we're going to go ahead and grab our remesh tool. And as you can see, our edge is a little ragged right now, but by remeshing this object, it smooths out the edge automatically. Turn the grid off. We don't need it right now. Don't want to use that tool. All right, let's do a little smoothing here, because we're going to do a little sculpting on top of what we've done so far. I'm going to solo this. Increase the size of my smoothing brush. All right. So there's the beginning of our paws. And I'm going to grab my inflate tool. Now before I do that, I'm going to actually shrink these down just a little bit, because the inflate tool is going to increase the size a little bit. Okay, again, inflate tool. Alright, that's about the right size, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bump here. Actually a little lower, a little less intense. And we're working with a mirror, so everything we do here happens over there. If you don't want to see that, just hit solo. Now you're just working with one piece of geometry. I'm going to grab my smooth tool. I saw a little bit of tessellation in there, so we're going to fix that. Now, as we work with this, you'll see that the bottom has gotten a little bit out of shape again. That's okay. I'll just turn my grid on, grab our trim tool, and we'll retrim the bottom of this guy just like that. And then, once again, do a remesh, clean up that curve on the bottom. Are they solid shapes? What do you mean by solid? I mean, they're not hollow, if that's what you mean, in 3D space. But they're primitives that we've sculpted into the final shape that we want. Not sure what you're asking for, but I will wait on you to give me clarification, and we'll go from there. As I grab a drink of orange juice. Okay, so back to our paws in progress. Let's scale it down just a little bit more. Move them over. And now they're pretty much ready to attach to the legs, except I want to add a little bit of detail inside the actual paw itself. So I'm going to grab my crease tool, and I'm going to work with a layer. In case I don't like it, I can undo it. And I'm just going to put a little crease here where the toes are a little more defined. We'll probably, actually, you know what? We should do that. We should wait to do that until we join the paws to the rest of the geometry. So we will come back to that. Move this leg back a little bit. I'm going to take this paw up here. I'm going to clone it. And we're going to move it back here so he has back paws. Angle it in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to hold my shift key down and select multiple items because I actually want him on his head back a little bit further. There we go. All right, I like that. Let's go ahead and save Max where he's at now. Always make sure you save because you never know when you might experience a little bit of a crash. All right, I'm going to grab all these primitive shapes and we're going to go ahead and validate them. Make sure we've got good topology. Good polygon count is what that means. Oh, that one's kind of low. Tail. We could probably leave the tail as a primitive, but he's also not too difficult to create. So if we need to recreate him in the future, we will do so. All right, topology. Validate. There's our ears. Okay, I think that's all of our primitives. Let's start joining some geometry. So we need to grab these. We need to grab these feet. That's rear paw. That's front paw. Foreleg. All right, everything's in a mirror, which means we really only have one of these items out here, but Nomad is creating copies of it for us. So what we need to do is we need to validate these items. By validating, it will turn these into two either individual copies that are still connected when you modify one, sculpt on one, it'll sculpt on the other as well. Or you can do an uninstance, and that'll create two separate copies that you can do whatever you want. They'll just act as two separate entities. Or you can join them together in one piece. That's what we're going to do. Keep it simple. So all of our paws, our rear haunches, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to join all these as one piece. And if I regret it, we'll come back and fix it later. Same thing with the ears. Going to join those. So now they all say mirror. But we're not going to worry about renaming this stuff because we're going to go straight to joining everything together. So I've got the body and all the pieces that make up the body. And then we got all the pieces that make up the head. And we are going to now merge all of these together. You know what I should probably do? Let's, real quick, like I'm going to undo what we just did. And we should save a copy. That way, if we don't like what we've done, we can come back to the most recent version before the save and fix it. All right, so I'm going to merge the entire body together. There's a quicker way to do this rather than going back and validating everything. You can join it and then do a quick remesh. Anything over 300. And if I solo this, you'll see this is now all one object. Needs a little cleanup. I'm going to grab my smooth tool. We're going to come in here. Everywhere this geometry welded together, we're just going to run our smooth tool over it. And as you can see now, it goes from being a collection of primitives to something that has a much more organic look to it. It's like the statue of David by Michelangelo. When he was asked how did he sculpt it, he said, I just removed everything that didn't belong. And that's kind of what we've done. We've taken our primitives, assembled them into some sort of a composition to get the basic look of what we want. We're actually acting in reverse. Michelangelo subtracted. We're adding, so we're just going a different direction. But the same thing. Again, we start with composition of primitives and then weld all those primitives together when we get the shape that we want, and then we come up with something more organic on the other side. Keeping your polygon count low is handy here, because then your fillets, where these pieces attach to each other, are smoother and more organic, more natural looking, as you can see. All right, now we got some trimming to do. I'm going to trim off the bottom with our trim tool. Actually, we're going to move this down first so this front paw is even with the blue line. And now we're going to trim it even with the blue line. And just like that, the entire bottom of our model is nice and flat. Res it up a little bit to clean that edge up. There it is with our tail and head and ears back in position. So now I'm going to grab the head and do the same thing. We're going to join everything. And then we're going to remesh. Set your mesh kind of high here so these points weld together nice and cleanly. You can always reduce the resolution of your mesh later if you want, or if you need to. Paul, that Christmas collection is going to be going up later this week. I am in the stages right now of test printing the train, and it's looking really good. And I, of course, as you can see, am working on other parts of our collection here as well. And I just realized I just did something incorrectly, and we've got to go and undo it. The ears are a different color from the body. So I need to paint those ears before we merge this head together. Let me do some undos here to get us back to where we need to go. Let's go back to the body trim. That should, there we go. All right, I'm going to slip into paint mode real quick. And we're going to apply some color to our ears. I'm with you, Paul. I will get it done. Believe me, it's one of the things that I am working toward getting completed as fast as I can. All right, there's our ears. Now we're going to go ahead and paint our body as long as we're here. The body's a little lighter brown color. It's a little richer than that, probably right about there. Same with actually the tail is this brown here. I'm going to sample that. We're going to paint that. And then we'll be adding eyebrows and stuff, the nose and things like that here shortly. So I just wanted to make sure that we get the ears painted, because painting this stuff after you mesh everything together is a real pain. And we just don't want to put anybody through that. All right, going back into matte cap mode, we can now grab our head, join it, remesh it. And it will respect the colors. Although no, really, I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. I need to paint the face, or the head and the snout as well. Now we mesh it. I'll tell you what, here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave those ears separate for now, okay? Because obviously they're just not done yet. All right, I'm going to mesh the head and the snout together. Slip back into matte cap, and we're going to solo it so we can do a little cleanup on just the head without everything else getting in the way. Yeah, it's looking good too. Is Paul still here? Paul, are you still here? If you're still here, I got something to show you. I wasn't thinking. And my apologies if he's gone. Somebody let me know if Paul comes back. All right, let's see. So we've got our ears. We've got all of our pieces of the body here. And we are going to need to, at some point here, cut Max's mouth out. And I just realized I probably should have done a lower jaw separate. But let's try and do it this way, shall we? I'm going to grab that trim tool again. I'm going to use lasso. Keep it simple. Max has got a little bit of a smile. And I think it goes back probably about to here. And boom. Let's see if that's enough. No, I'm not a fan of that. I'll tell you what, let's use the polygon tool. Going to trim. Although, question, if we start with the lasso, can we finish with the polygon? We sure can, but boy, is that a lot of lines, a lot of points. You know what, let's just clean it up real quick. It's not difficult to do, actually. There we go. All right. All right, let's try that. Yeah, I like that. That's a good shape. Let's go ahead and remesh that a little bit, clean that up. Grab our smooth tool. Actually, I think we need to remesh it a little bit more. Perfect. All right. Sorry, let me bring up my Max references again here. All right. What do we got here? We need a little bit of a... We need a little bit of a indent on the inside of the mouth. I'm going to grab the mask tool, we'll turn on tap, and we have masked the inside of the mouth, but it's the inside that I want to actually affect. So I'm going to flip that mask by tapping the screen. We'll blur it a little bit. And we'll grab our gizmo tool. And I think I'm going to move the pivot point back here. That's where it will scale from. And we're going to scale it inward a little bit. And then expand it upward a little bit so it actually indents up and down into the mouth area. Made it a little smaller. a fan of that. Alright, let's undo that. So I think what we'll do instead is we will do the, let me see if I can, let's clear the mask, tab. All right, it wants to do the whole thing, and that's fine. What we'll do is we'll just erase the bottom part. Because I think what we want to do is we want to just do this a half at a time. Now we'll flip the mask. Okay, now it's blurred a little bit. Flip it. We'll scale that in and then pull it up. And then we're going to do the same thing for the bottom. We just want the bottom part. Again, scale it a little bit, take it down and back. All right, we're going to drop the mesh resolution on this a little bit because I want to... Ooh, can't on that edge, though. All right, let's go backwards. Let's see what we got with our smooth tool. The way it sits. Oh, that's not too bad. That's not bad at all. Probably a cleaner way to do this, and we may actually go back and do it, is use our Boolean function. You're here for the painting? Excellent. Today we are doing a dog version of the Mona Lisa. No, I'm kidding. I am kidding. I think actually I want to excavate this mouth with a... I think we'll use a Boolean. I think that might be the better way to go because I'm not really getting the clean approach here that I want. Because we merged our primitives long before I should have. So let's go back. Let's undo this. The inside of this mouth. You know what? One other thing I'm going to try real quick. Let's up the blur quite a bit. Flip the mask. It's still, yeah, it's still creating. Yeah, it's not what I want. All right. We may wind up redoing the this part of the head too. I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's what I should do. No, actually, it's not going to be Snoopy. Believe it or not, this is going to be Max. If you're familiar with the Grinch, this is our Grinch stuck in a chimney. And the idea here is Max is going to be sitting off to the side of the chimney. That is the idea. But I'm thinking I need to, need to redo this head. I'm not, you know, maybe the inflate tool. Maybe that's my friend today. Let's zoom in here. The problem is I I was in a hurry, and I welded the upper and lower portions of the head together before I realized that I wanted them as separate items. Yeah, this is kind of working. It's not my preferred method. And now I just realized something else. If we take this route, that's going to leave quite an overhang in there, which will probably not print very well. So now we're going even further back to a time before. Oh, and I can't. We went too far. All right. So this head is going to be a template for our new head. Let's see how fast we can make a new head. Sphere. I'm going to turn on X-ray. And then lock that down. I don't need that. Open indefinitely. Give him a little bit of a forehead here. All right, we need yeah, we're just going to do another primitive. Move that one up here where his snout goes. Go ahead and validate it. And then pull it into the general shape that we want. I'm going to make a little gap in his mouth, but I'm not going to make it wide open because, again, I don't want supports. I don't want to deal with a lot of supports. I don't mind a little supports. A few supports, I should say, not a little supports. But I don't want a lot. All right, now the ears, which was a tube shape. I'm going to reset that, and I'm going to use our path tool. Ear comes down to here. That's up the diameter of that. We're going to go into profile, make a custom profile. Did this last time. We need to flatten it this way. There we go. Turn on our radius tools. Get the general placement here first, so we get the curve correct. And then we'll thicken the profile where necessary. Gonna up our topology so we get some nice smooth curves. Alright, that ear's a little too wide. Alright, let's hide the original head, since we don't need that anymore. And the original ear, we don't need that anymore. We'll rename these ear. This will be snout. And this will be head. There we go. Alright. We need 2 ears, so I'm going to grab that, and we're going to add a mirror to it, so we get one on the other side as well. And I feel like our head needs to be a little more pointed toward the top. Alright, that's a good profile. That looks like Max. So I think we'll go ahead now. Actually, I think his ear probably could come down a little bit. A little bit more. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me check the front of his head here. I want to make sure that it's nice and flat in the forehead area, because we're going to need that flatness in order to have a place for his eyes, since his eyes face forward. Alright, let's see what we got here. I'm going to go into paint mode, make sure that everything is painted the correct colors. And the ears, I'm going to sample the paint off of his tail, because that's what colors they should be. Alright. Now we can go ahead and merge together our head and snout. So let's get those guys together here. So I'll do exactly that. Slip back into matte cap mode here. Let me double check that nose. Actually, I feel like his nose might be a little long, because we're actually going to do the nose with a separate piece of geometry. So I'm going to pull this in just a little bit like that. Now we'll grab the head and the nose. Let's remesh these together. Do a corporate smooth operation. And then we'll smooth it down. Oop, that was the wrong tool. Smooth it locally. I'm going to drop the resolution of our mesh down just a smidge, so we got a little more control with our smooth operation. Smooth out the back here. Okay. Now, what Max needs, if you've ever seen the Max that plays the part in the Benedict Cumberbatch version of The Grinch, we're going to need some eyes. Let's put some eyes in. We'll need 2 of them. We'll grab our gizmo tool. We'll raise them up where they go, shrink them down. I'm going to flatten them out a little bit and then bring them out. Lean them in toward the head just a smidge. Elongate them a little bit. We're going to paint the geometry around the eyes so it looks better and more like his eyes weren't just laid on his head, but they actually belong there. But the first thing to do is to make sure we get them in the right position. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's switch to the head. I'm going to add a layer. Grab our inflate tool. And now we can push inward. And we can pull the geometry outward. Whatever we choose. I'm going to pull the geometry out a little bit up here because Max does have some eyebrows that we need to get into place. Grab that smooth tool, smooth things out a little bit here. And now that I have the geometry started up with my inflate tool, I'm going to grab this move tool and pull it up a little bit more like this. I want this a little more concave, going toward his eyeball. Oops, I did something out here. I'm gonna grab my smooth tool and fix it. I'm not sure what happened. I must have hit something with my thumb. It happens. Fortunately, we can fix it. Alright. I think that's probably about where it needs to go. I want these eyebrows to arch upward, though, a little bit. So I'm going to pull down here. There we go. I like that. If you don't know anything about Max, he's a very friendly, loyal dog. Now I'm going to switch into paint mode real quick. I just want to make sure that these eyes look correct. One thing I want to do with the eyes is I want to bring the the head up a little bit under the eyes like this. Oh gosh, I did it again. This gives them a happier look when the eyes are curved upward underneath. He looks happier. And again, if you know anything about Max, he is a happy dog. So I'm going to zoom in very close and just bring this geometry up a little bit. And then we'll smooth it. Whoop. Smooth it back out here through the snout. All right, now we need to duplicate this eyeball. And we're going to bring it forward and scale it down. And bring it down like that a little bit. And then we're going to color it brown, the same color as the ear. And now he has pupils in his eyes. Again, the eyes are looking, his head tilted up, eyes looking down, accentuates the happy look. And once we put the goofy smile on his face, that will complete the look. I'm going to add a sphere real quick because we need a nose. That's a big nose. Let's make it smaller. And let's make it more dog nose-ish. We'll go ahead and validate it so we can sculpt it. Spread it out a little bit, pull it down in front, and then let's grab our inflate tool. I'm going to set it to sub so we can push the geometry in, and do exactly that. And then we'll smooth it. Oh, that's a little too much on the intensity for the smooth. Alright, there's Max's nose. I think he needs a little crease in the center of this nose, though. And we don't need two noses. Let's bring it out. It was in a mirror. That's a little too deep. Let's drop the intensity a bit. Okay. Nose needs to be black. We can put a little shine on it if we want. Now Max needs a smile. I'm going to add a layer, so if we don't like the smile, we can always change it. Using that crease tool, I'm going to go ahead and paint him a smile from here. Back to his head like that. Yep, I like that. Let's go ahead and deepen that just a little bit. Give it that classic animated hook at the end of the smile. And then we'll grab our inflate tool and we'll give him a little bit of a cheek here above the hook. Smooth it. Just use your inflate tool and the smoothing tool until you get it to look just the way you want. And I think, with the exception of giving the little guy eyebrows, I think we're pretty close. I am going to crease this a little bit more right in here. And then we want to join the head to the body because we need to do some smoothing there. So here's our head piece and our body piece. I'm going to go ahead and mesh those together. Then we'll grab our smooth tool. We'll come in here and do a little cleanup. Between those two pieces. All right. One last thing I want to do is I want to give Max some eyebrows. So I'm going to grab my mask tool. We're going to create some new geometry about where the eyebrows should go. Right here. Rather than using any kind of primitives to create geometry, I'm just going to use mask extraction. And we will bring eyebrows off of our existing geometry, like so. I need above and below the surface. There we go. And then we'll clear the mask. And we'll go ahead and up the resolution on those. Give them a little smooth. And then we'll paint them to match the ears. Now, one other thing that we could do is give Max his horn. Because if you remember correctly, Max was disguised as a reindeer. So I think that is only fitting that we give Max his horn. I'm going to grab my tube tool again. And let's turn on grid so you can see the grid around things here. And we're going to start here and end here. Just a modest horn. Something like that. We'll tap the execute button. And that gives us the beginning of our horn. And we're going to need another tube here because we've got a piece that needs to come up here. And if I remember correctly, we had a piece that came off here. Take it back. I'm looking at references right now. This piece went this way. I'm going to fatten it up a little bit. like that look. It's not a bad look. Let's look at it in 3D here. Yeah, it kind of looks like Max's horn looked. Although I feel like I want to fatten it up even more. I think what I need to do is I need to turn on multiple points on my radius adjustment. And then I can get a little more creative with the size of it at the ends. Like so. This will also facilitate a better print for our printer because it's thicker and it's not quite so spindly. Yeah, I like that. Working and lurking. All right. Well, thank you for stopping by. All right. Still feel like it's not in the right. It's the thing that you have to keep in mind when you're designing stuff is there's a trade-off between something that looks, you know, real and in this case similar to the original, but also whether or not it's going to be a successful print. So sometimes compromises have to be made. All right. But I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and increase the topology on some of these pieces here. All right, and then we'll go ahead and validate. And then select all the pieces that make up our antler. Merge them together. And then grab our smooth tool, do some cleanup. Round those tips a little bit more. There's our antler sitting on top of Max's head. Now there's some other things that we could do here. I know there was a string or a piece of rope that ordinarily tied this to Max's head, but I think we'll just ignore that for now. I'm going to go back into paint mode and go ahead and paint Max's. Why is the... Oh, looks like we accidentally selected the tail when we merged everything together. That's all right. We can just split it off, make it its own thing. All right. Now, as I was saying, let's go back into our colors. We'll give that antler its own unique color. And because it's brown, black, white, brown, two browns, and the bone color, it'll be a 5-color print. You can always make that the same color as the as Max himself. I'm actually going to paint the eyes. We could make the antlers so it prints separately, and then you just plug it into Max's head. There's different approaches you can take. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and save Max where he's at. And we're going to go back and open up our Grinch scene. And we're going to bring Max into the Grinch scene. And we're going to face him this way. Now, Max is sitting a little bit outside of the snow here, which is fine. It just means we need to make the snow a little wider to accommodate him. But I want to put him right about there in the snow. Alright, and now we're going to modify the snow with our move tool to give Max a place to sit. It's plenty deep there, so we will have no problem carving out a spot for Max. Let's see, where is Max? There's Max. We didn't name him as Max, though, did we? That's on me. So let's go ahead and fix that now. There's Max's eyes, there's his nose, snout. We don't need that snout, that's the old snout. So we've got, that's his nose. Let's name these things appropriately. I should have named them before we brought them over, but I didn't. Alright, so I'm going to select all of that, I'm going to group it, and now Max is movable as a grouped item, which is what we want. So we can position him correctly. We'll turn X-ray off. And I'm going to again grab this move tool for our snow. We'll bring it out a little bit further. Oop. I think we can pull it in a little bit back here. Alright, footprints are intact. Now I'm going to pull it down with the inflate tool set to sub around his body because I don't need the snow to be super deep here. We're going to use Max's body as a boolean to carve out a space for his body. But right now I'm just going to take it down a little bit. And then we'll smooth it. Take it down a little bit more. Nope, that's too far. Oh, I forgot. Max, actually, that's my bad. Alright, we need to undo that because I forgot that Max is actually not down far enough, or as far in the snow as the bottom of the snow itself goes. Alright, shoot. What did I do? Okay. I see what I did here. Alright, we got to pull this snow down now. That's on me. Let's see. Delete. Redo. Alright, that's Max, so okay. Let's pull this snow back down. Not sure what happened there, but fortunately we know how to fix it. So I think actually, let me turn this grid off because this is just getting in the way. Let's grab our inflate tool and just pull that bottom down. Uh-oh, I think I might have locked Nomad up. Let's restart it. Yes, we did. Nothing that we did took. Well, that's okay because we actually need to do some file cleanup here with Max. That's the old snout. That's the old ears. That's his body. Those are the eyebrows. This will be the antler. This is why you always keep your objects named. Alright, so that'll be the pupil. That'll be the white of the eye. That's the nose. Okay, eyebrows, antler. And that is the tail. Now we can save this. And actually, before we do that, what is this mirror here? Eyes, ears. Let's go ahead and name the mirror too. We'll just call it, let's see, wait, which one was it? That is the eyes. That's our ears. And those all attached to the body. So the nose goes in the body, so do the eyes, the ears. Actually, everything attaches to the body. Now when we grab the body, and we'll just name it Max Body. Now, when we grab that in our other what's the word I'm looking for? Our other composition, then we'll know what body we're grabbing. All right, back to our Grinch with Max. Now let's add Max to the scene. Turn him around where he belongs. Turn on X-ray. Scale him down just a little bit. I'm going to have him sit in the snow right there. I'm going to open the snow up a little bit. Give Max some room in our composition. Okay, I don't want Max to merge with the chimney. Let's grab Max and move him out a little bit, away from the chimney, which means our snow needs to move a little bit more away from his body. I'm going to go just a little bit more. Okay. I think that's a nice respectable margin. So Max is close to the chimney, but he's not merged with it. Very important. And now we can go ahead and use Max as a Boolean to create an indent in the snow for his body. So let's get started on that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate or clone his body. We'll switch into matcap mode. And this will be Max Boolean. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to inflate the body a little bit to create that indent and give Max a little bit of wiggle room. Let's turn on X-ray so we're just working with our Boolean. Remesh, and then do a quick smooth operation. Smooth everything out nicely. And I think that now his paw is buried back here. You can see it's under the snow. So what we need to do is we need to grab everything above the snow and extrude it upward. And the top surfaces, I should say, of everything under the snow. So like if you stepped in with your foot and the top of your foot went below the surface, it would still be a straight indent from the bottom of your foot. Does that make sense? Alright, so let's grab our mask select tool. Use the lasso, and I want everything. Actually, an easier way to do this would be to work from the side. And everything from here down, we're going to select and mask. Now when we extrude this upward, or when we stretch this upward, it will bring everything up and make kind of a vertical impression of the overall shape of the bottom of Max. But let's do a little cleanup on our mask first. So I'm going to blur the edge a little bit. And then this is the portion that we want to raise up. So we're going to do the, actually, you know what I just realized? We need the tail too as part of our Boolean. Let's go back in time here. And where's your tail, Max? We need a copy of your tail too. I'm going to clone that. I'm going to bring that down here and we will combine it with our Boolean. Alright. Now we will again inflate our Boolean to give it some wiggle room. I'm going to solo it. We're going to remesh it and then do a smooth operation to clean it all up. Alright, again our mask selection tool. Grab the lower bottom. The bottom, not the lower bottom. Alright, now we're going to blur that a little bit. And I think what we'll do is we'll flip the mask so you can see in reverse the concept I'm talking about. Okay, let's turn off solo so you can see. And we will pull this down like this. Alright? See that? So everything from the middle of his paws and tail, we pull downward. And now, we'll go ahead and clear that mask and we can raise the whole thing up. See, there's Max in the snow. See him? Alright, let me go to the side here and move our pivot point so this is a little easier to see. I'm going to bring this down into the snow and make sure that we go low enough to excavate the area around the Max we're keeping. Alright, so this is our Boolean. I'm going to hide it, and now it can be used as a Boolean. And then I will select the roof snow, because that's what we're cutting out. And we will just hit Boolean. And boom, just like that, we have an impression of where Max will be sitting. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup. So I'm going to remesh this down. And then we'll grab our smooth tool. We'll set the intensity to about 150. A little bigger size, and then we'll just clean these edges up and inside here, and that'll create a perfect indent for our printed Max to sit. And if you give me a second here, you'll see it actually come to fruition. All right. Hey, Jesse. How you doing, man? Long time no talk. All right. Let's turn solo off. There, you can see. And now we'll turn our paint mode on. Of course, the snow retained some of the color from the Boolean. We'll just go ahead and repaint it. And now you can see Max will sit there cleanly after we print him separately. So that eliminates some of the additional colors that we'll need to print. If we were to print this all as one piece, we would need black, white, 3 colors of brown, red, green. That takes us, and then bone. That takes us up to 8 colors. Now I have 2 AMSs, which allows me to print 8 colors, but not everybody has that. So by keeping Max separate, this print now requires 2 browns, a white, a red, and a green. It's 5 colors, and then Max himself requires 5 colors. I think I am going to smooth this just a little bit more, make it look a little more snow-like. There we go. These are earlier footprints using the same method from the Grinch, where he was standing just before he unceremoniously fell into the chimney. But there we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And that completes our stream of putting Max next to the chimney with the Grinch. Of course, there'll be a version available where Max is not sitting next to the chimney, if anybody wants that. But there we go. Hopefully that was entertaining, educating, and all of those things. It's now 3 p.m., and that is my cutoff, which means I need to go run some errands and get some outdoor stuff done. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow, I've got a pretty full day planned, so I doubt that I'll be back tomorrow. There's a chance that I'll be back in here Friday. So I would recommend that if you're not following us, throw us a follow, because we do try to get out here and do this. Oh no, that's all good. It's all good. You do what you got to do. We're here to entertain, educate, inform, and hopefully it does a little bit of that for everybody. So again, thank you for showing up. We will be back. I will be back probably on Friday. If I'm not back Friday, just look for our live stream schedule. We will be, we're streaming on multiple platforms now. Twitter, no, not Twitter, I'm sorry. Twitch, YouTube, Kick, obviously here. We have a Discord server. Again, as I mentioned before, if you're interested, you can go to our profile and you'll see the link right here. That will lead you out to various places where we're at. I've got other links that I need to put in here. Pepper, get out of that litter box. No. Pepper, get out of there now. I got a couple of beagles that love to play in the cat box. Anyway, so yeah. Like I said, I will try to get back out here Friday because I've still got some more designing to do for our holiday collection, which we hope to launch late or early next week, late this week or early next week, and then we'll start working on some other stuff. So, in any event, everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other, and thank you for stopping by and checking out what we do. And as Anchorman says, stay classy. All right, everybody have a good one. We'll talk soon. Not yet, Pep. You gotta wait. You are a piece of work. Getting into the cat box when I'm on the live stream. Go on upstairs.